Welcome. Thank you for clicking this video. In this channel, I'm going to cover interesting thematic Warframe synergy. From builds, weapons, arcanes, and even a topic that some people consider it taboo, a ribbon. But before we start, I have to clarify something. By all means, I'm not an expert like many other wonderful Warframe content creator. I'm just a full-time salaryman, enjoying Warframe with friends after a tiring day. So please, if you find the build that I cover, already mentioned by many other experts, treat it as a new point of view. Now the ground rule established. Let's begin. Warframe design growing over time. Back when I first played it in 2015, most Warframe skills don't have a good synergy, they're just there, simply to serve the theme of the Warframe. But newer Warframe that come lately not only has a good thematic, but also come with a great synergy within their skills. One of them is the speedster, Gauss. With his speedy nature, Gauss quickly picked by most Tenno to speed run for mid to low level missions, which to be honest, cover most mission in Warframe itself. Capture, spy, sabotage, rescue, can be quickly finished with his insane mobility via Mach Rush. Exterminate, and kill count mission, can easily cleared using his large spammable AoE thermal sunder. Want to do high level mission that require high survivability? Kinetic plating and redline got us covered by its absurdly, up to 100% damage reduction. Thus, Gauss become one of the most favorite Warframe to this day. To honor this well-designed Warframe, I won't put any helmet subsumed ability in this loadout. Instead, I will dive deeper into Gauss skill synergies. Unlike my previous video, we will experimenting Gauss synergies mostly in Simulacrum. But later at the end, we will showcase a footage of the build in the solo survival Steel Path mission, like we always did. This is Extinguish the World. A Gauss Warframe loadout. A loadout that I always choose to run every time I want to see the world burned. Let's begin with the Warframe itself, Gauss. Gauss' passive ability is that he has two resources to maintain. First one is energy like any other Warframe, and the second one is battery level. Battery icon can be seen above the magazine UI in right bottom corner of the screen. This battery can be charged when Gauss move, thus moving a lot will fill this battery rapidly, which will give benefit to most of Gauss skills. Not stopping there, Gauss also got shield recharge increased, and shield recharge delay decreased, based on the battery level on top of it. This passive alone, force us as the player to keep moving while piloting this Warframe. And if Gauss keep moving, he will never stop killing. Gauss' first active ability is Mach Rush. Gauss charge forward flash style. Every tap on this skill fill 10% of your battery level. And every enemy you hit while you run, increase 1% of the battery charge too. This is Gauss' main mobility and signature skill. By utilizing this movement skill, you can reposition, fill your battery, and crowd control the enemy. We will explain about the CC part later. Gauss' second skill is kinetic plating. This is Gauss' main survivability, CC prevention, and energy regeneration tools, all in one package. One important note about this skill is not completely cover all damage reduction type. Kinetic plating only reduce the so-called kinetic damage type, which is physical, heat, cold, and blast. To cover the rest of the damage reduction type, using adaptation mod is needed sometime. Enemy with toxin aura must be the one of the priority target, since the toxin damage, even though reduced by max stacks of adaptation, will probably kill you in high level mission. Let's get back to the kinetic plating. Kinetic plating started with 24% damage reduction in this build, scaling up to 100% damage reduction when the battery fully recharged with redline, which we will talk about soon. This scaling once again promote the run and gun play style, and not cater to camper style gameplay. Even with kinetic plating active, we need to keep moving to survive, and courtesy of the passive skills, by moving, the battery charge will filled, increasing the damage reduction of this skill even further in the process. Gauss' third, and perhaps one of the strongest skill in Warframe, is Thermal Sunder. Thermal Sunder is multi-layer skill. I can say that this loadout, centered around this very skill. Thermal Sunder can be activated two ways. First one, to lightly tap the button to blast AoE with cold damage, making a dome-like area that deal cold proc per second, and increase your battery charge by 10%. The second way to activate it is to hold the button to release AoE heat damage, making a dome-like area of effect just like its cold counterpart, but instead, decreasing the battery level by 10%. In term of damage, the Thermal Sunder initial damage is far from good, but we can make it hit so hard by utilizing Thermal Sunder first layer feature, Detonate. Detonate is the first layer of Thermal Sunder that makes this skill, is one of the strongest skill in Warframe. Detonate is the second activation of the Thermal Sunder. If the first activation of Thermal Sunder is the cold version, using the cold version again, will detonate the area by freezing enemy in place. But if the first activation of Thermal Sunder is the heat version, using the heat version again, will increase the ticks of heat damage to the enemy. But what if we cast Detonate with different element? If the first activation is cold, and we detonate it with heat, then enemy take blast type damage and will be knocked away from you. But if the first activation is heat, and we detonate it with cold, the enemy will also take blast type damage but knock toward you instead. There's 3 other layer in this skill, but we will explain them with the corresponding skills, weapon, and mod later. Last skill of Gauss is his Super Saiyan skill, redline. Gauss activate another resource to control, the redline level. Redline percentage can be seen on top of the battery level. And as the UI described, this redline level can be accessed when the battery level is fully charged. When the battery is fully charged, the percentage of the redline level will increase from 0% to 100%. The method of filling the redline level is not different than filling the battery. It rapidly increased by moving, using Mach Rush, or cold version of the Thermal Sunder. When redline is active, Gauss strengthen his other 3 skills. Mach Rush cost will cut half, making it easy to dash around with more efficient energy. Kinetic plating damage reduction will rise further up to 100% damage reduction when the redline level is at 100%, making Gauss temporary cannot die. And lastly, when redline activated, Thermal Sunder will unlock another layer of feature, Armor Strip. When Thermal Sunder detonate different element, it will also reduce enemy armor up to completely stripping it when the redline is at 100%. Now we talked about its skills, let's move to modding section. The arcane that we will use is Arcane Energize to complement the spammy nature of this loadout. And Arcane Acceleration to increase the fire rate requirement for the primary weapon, which we will discuss later. The modding of this Gauss is centered around ability range. Overextended, Stretch, Cunning Drift, and Augur Reach, to make 280% ability range. Transient Fortitude and Augur Secret, to increase ability strength back to 119%. Prime Continuity to level ability duration to 128%. Primed Flow, to increase our energy pool to accommodate excessive energy usage in this build. And Mach Crash Augment to add crowd control in form of vacuum, that will pull enemy toward the impact point of your Mach Rush. This augment will make our Mach Rush not only a mobility skill, but also 22 meters radius pull skill. Lastly, in Aura we use Brief Respite to combine with both Augur Secret and Augur Reach. This combination will make every energy used will fill our shield by 230%. And since we always wear Decaying Dragon Key on our equipment, our shield pool will be lowered permanently, making it easier for shield gating. With this 3 mods, Thermal Sunder add another layer of feature, in the form of survivability tool, shield gating. We pretty much cover the skills, synergy, and modding of the Warframe, so let's move to the weapons section. The weapon of my choosing in this loadout is, the Flame Demon, Ignis Wraith. Ignis Wraith is flamethrower with infinite body punch through. You can simply ask your guildmate one of its blueprint if you don't have one. Remember, do not buy this weapon blueprint with platinum. Let's go to the modding. 2 Galvanized mod, Galvanized chamber to increase multi-shot, and when this mod hit max stacks, we will shoot 3 beams of fire every bullet. And another Galvanized mod, Galvanized aptitude will increase damage for every status chance inflicted to target. With viral heat, and sometimes slash, we will have 160% to 240% weapon damage boost, thus damage mods such as serration is not needed. Critical delay and vital sense to increase critical chance and critical damage. Both 60/60 mod of toxin and cold to make viral damage. Hunter munition to give slash proc chance on critical strike. The last slot is Riven, but you can change it with Bane mods, or simply fire rate mods. The reason I'm not putting fire rate mods in this build is, because the fire rate requirement is already covered, by arcane acceleration in the Warframe. And if you want to invest a Riven to this old demon, look for critical damage, multi-shot, and punch through. Not stopping there, this weapon will also unlock the final layer of Thermal Sunder, the nuke. There's a trick to use Thermal Sunder, that most player either don't care, or simply don't know. Thermal Sunder will use its detonation feature directly, if there's a counter element attached on target. Which means, if enemy has heat element attached to them from another source. Like, I don't know, hundreds of heat stacks from Ignis Wraith maybe? One tap of cold Thermal Sunder, will directly detonate it as blast type damage. More about this tricks, the blast damage calculation of this detonation will be calculated from the accumulation of the heat damage within the remaining duration, consumed into one single burst. In short, Thermal Sunder can be used as heat version of the Helmet skill, Expedite Suffering. And the scariest part about this is, when you cast it with 100% redline, it will strip armor before dealing the damage, making this very skill is one of the best nuke skill in Warframe. I choose to not use any secondary in this loadout since the primary weapon synergy with the skills is more than enough. But if you want to use secondary weapon to have synergies with the nuke mechanic I mentioned before, Athode is a very good candidate. So let's go to the melee weapon. In this loadout, melee weapon that I use is, the modular ZA weapon, simply because its absurd feature, Exodia Contagion. The modding of this weapon is actually pretty simple. Since the main purpose is to be able to fast cast Exodia Contagion, we mod our ZA with pure damage and critical damage. Sacrificial mods to increase max critical chance and raw damage. Spoiled Strike to increase raw damage further. Organ Shatter and Gladiator Might to increase critical damage. Primed Fever Strike and Shocking Touch to make corrosive element, since Exodia explosive damage is 100% viral. Any element will be converted to viral and blast element on the explosions. Last mod is Riven, but if you don't have any Riven you can use any elemental mod in this slot. But if you want to invest Riven in your ZA, look for critical chance, critical damage, and melee damage stat. Now the modding section is done, let's see how we use this weapon in this loadout. With this melee weapon, you're not going to actually hit enemy in close range, instead treat it like long-range explosive weapon. When you, let's say burn enemy with Ignis Wraith, and then nuke it with Thermal Sunder, and the target is not died yet. Simply tap your spacebar twice to double jump. Hold your right mouse button to aim. But instead of shooting, press E to do melee attack in the air. Thus will launch Exodia Contagion explosive projectile to target. While landing on the ground you can simply click left mouse button to continue shooting with your primary, without any necessity to press F to switch between weapon. This method is so practical, you can always use it in nick of battle. With weapons section finished, let's move to the gameplay section. Always prioritize kinetic plating and redline active all the time. You will have both of them up for 38 seconds with this build. When you got hit and you lost all your shields, top up instantly with Thermal Sunder 2. 1. Reactivate your shield gating. And 2. Crowd control with Thermal Sunder Cold. Never ever use Thermal Sunder Heat. Mock rush to the wall near your enemies to vacuum them into one place. Burn them down with Ignis Wraith, when target has half health or so, which takes about 1 until 2 seconds with max stacks of Arcane Merciless, then press 3 to cast Thermal Sunder Cold to consume the heat stack on the target and burst it with one single damage. If they're still moving, explode them with your Exodia Contagion, just to make sure. Target that got caught by vacuum and heat will be detonated by Thermal Sunder, but those who don't have heat attached on them, will be frozen in place caused by multiple casts of cold Thermal Sunder. So as long as we use Thermal Sunder periodically, most enemy around us will be frozen in place. The rest is, more Mock Rush, more vacuum, more burning, and of course more Thermal Sunder. And thus conclude our fourth loadout, Extinguish the World. In my 6-7 years of playing Warframe, Gauss probably the only Warframe that has so many skill interactions. It has synergy on top of synergy on top of synergy, and I won't deny it, I love this kind of depth. Oh, before I finish the video, this loadout is definitely not for everyone. The amount of rapid movement may give you motion sickness sometimes. So the price of playing this loadout is actually, your very well-being. So please, use it in moderation. Thank you for watching. And if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe for more Warframe videos. This is our inner universe. With the Gauss loadout. Extinguish the world.
They have just shut down all systems. I'm sending life support capsules your way. Ready for a capsule. Delivered a life support capsule to the area. Activating it will buy you more time.
To this place when they know they are not destroyed. Tenno use the keys, but they are mere trespassers. Only I, Thor, know the true power of the world.
Life support incoming.
destructive power of my garrison. They will learn its simple truth. Let it be known, if the Tenno want true salvation, they will lay down their arms and wait for the baptism of my garrison key. The Tenno are lost, and they will resist, but I, Thor, will cleanse this place of their impurity. This death is temporary. My existence is forever. I cannot be destroyed.
Another life support capsule is now available. Progress. This will help our cause. Extraction is available if you need it.